Welcome back, Heartland family, to Next Door, where we dive deep into the moments that touch our hearts and bring us closer to the magic of Heartland. I'm your host, Emma, and today's video is one that I know many of you have been waiting for, dreaming about, and holding hope for. Because today, we are breaking down Ty Borden's grand return in Heartland Season 19, Episode 1. This isn't just another episode, and this isn't just another storyline. This is a story of love that refused to fade, of hope that stayed alive even in the darkest of times. So, before we begin walking through every beautiful, emotional moment, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to Next Door. Because here, we don't just watch Heartland, we live it, we breathe it, and we carry it in our hearts. Now, grab a cozy blanket, maybe a box of tissues too, because today's journey is going to stir your soul in ways you didn't even expect. The opening of Season 19, Episode 1, is like a love letter to Heartland itself. It's quiet, it's aching, and it's filled with an almost unbearable sense of waiting. We see the ranch bathed in early morning light, the dew clinging to the grass, the horses grazing in the distance, and in every frame, there's this unspoken feeling that something is missing, someone is missing. Amy is tending to the horses like she always does, her hands strong and sure, but there's a deep loneliness in her eyes that she tries to hide, even from herself. Jack sits on the porch, his familiar hat tipped low, his hands busy whittling a piece of wood, but even he seems lost in thought, staring into the horizon as if expecting a figure to appear any minute. Inside the house, Lou is moving briskly through emails and phone calls, but even her sharp focus seems a little forced. Lindy runs through the fields, laughing and chasing butterflies, her carefree joy a bright contrast to the heaviness that the adults seem to carry. The writers lay down tiny clues, an old photo of Ty tucked into Amy's journal, a well-worn jacket hanging by the door, little reminders that though Ty has been gone, he was never truly forgotten. It's as if Heartland itself has been holding its breath, waiting for the impossible to happen. And it happens, not during a dramatic storm or a major event, but on an ordinary afternoon in the middle of a normal day that was supposed to be like any other. Amy is brushing Spartan in the barn, humming a quiet tune under her breath, lost in her thoughts when she hears footsteps behind her. She smiles softly, assuming it's Jack or maybe Tim coming to check in. But then, a voice she hasn't heard outside of her dreams for years, calls out, "Amy," the voice says, soft and trembling. The brush falls from Amy's hand, landing soundlessly on the hay-covered floor as her entire body goes rigid. She turns slowly, her heart pounding so loudly she can barely hear anything else. And when her eyes land on the figure standing there, time itself seems to stop. It's Ty. It's really Ty. Older, yes, and changed by the years, but still her Ty, still the man she loved with everything she had. For a long moment, neither of them moves, both frozen by the sheer impossibility of it all. Then, Amy takes a shaky step forward, tears filling her eyes so quickly she can barely see. And when she finally whispers Ty, it's not just a word, it's a breath she's been holding for years. The next moment, Ty crosses the distance between them, and in a flood of sobs and gasps, prayers of thanks, Amy throws herself into his arms. And for the first time in so long, she feels whole again. Later, after the initial shock has worn off just enough for them to sit down, Amy and Ty find themselves on the back porch, the familiar creak of the wooden boards beneath their feet grounding them in a reality that still feels like a dream. They sit side by side, not touching at first, the space between them filled with unspoken questions, fears, and desperate hope. Ty's voice is rough when he begins, like he's speaking through a throat clogged with years of swallowed emotions. He explains how, after the incident that almost claimed his life, he was pulled into a situation bigger than himself, into a government protection program, a world of secrecy, hiding, and survival. It wasn't a choice he made lightly. It was something he did because he believed it was the only way to keep Amy and Lindy safe. Ty talks about nights spent alone, clutching a photo of Amy and Lindy to his chest, whispering promises to the stars that he would find his way back. He tells Amy that every day it was a battle not just for survival, but for hope, for the sliver of faith that somehow, someday, he would stand on the porch of Heartland again. Amy listened, the tears never really stopping, her heart breaking for all he had suffered, but also beginning to heal with the knowledge that even though he was gone, he had never stopped loving her, never stopped fighting for their family. And when he said, "I never stopped coming home to you, even if it was only in my dreams," Amy couldn't hold back a sob, leaning into him, clutching his hand like she might lose him again if she let go. The sun hung low over Heartland, casting a warm, golden glow across the familiar ranch. When Lindy saw him, she was out in the yard brushing her pony. She was only 9 years old, but she was wise in ways that only life on the ranch could teach. At first, her small face twisted in confusion. He was just a figure in the distance, a silhouette against the sun. But as he moved closer, something in her heart recognized him before her mind caught up. She lost control of her brush, and it fell gently into the dirt. Her chest rose and fell quickly as she stood there frozen and breathless. Then, without warning, Lindy ran. Her boots pounded against the dusty ground, arms swinging wildly, tears streaming down her cheeks, not from sadness, but from pure, overwhelming love. She didn't question it. She didn't hesitate. She collided into Ty with the full force of her small body, wrapping her arms tightly around him, as if afraid he might disappear again. "Daddy, you're home!" she cried into his chest as her voice cracked. Words so simple, yet carrying the weight of years of longing. Ty knelt down, scooping her up, his own tears falling freely as he clutched her to him, burying his face in her hair. That moment was innocent, raw, and unimaginably powerful, a reunion of hearts that had been waiting too long to find their way back to each other. Jack stood a few feet away, arms crossed loosely over his chest, his cowboy hat shielding his teary eyes. For a man who had seen his share of life's hardest truths, this moment still caught him off guard. He had prepared himself for everything except the sheer emotional earthquake that came with seeing Ty alive, holding Lindy like he had never left. Jack's throat tightened, but he forced a deep breath, steadying himself. He had taught Ty everything he knew about horses, about being a man, about family. In many ways, Ty had become like a son to him. And now, seeing him back, bruised by life but still standing strong, Jack felt a deep, resonant gratitude. Quietly, he walked forward and placed a firm, weathered hand on Ty's shoulder. Ty looked up, eyes shining, and for a moment, no words were needed. Jack's voice, when it finally came, was low and thick with emotion. "You found your way back, son. That's all that matters." There was no blame, no questions, only acceptance, wisdom, and a fierce, unbreakable love that spoke louder than any words ever could. Jack's gift had always been knowing when to speak and when simply to be present. And right now, his silent support was the anchor that held everyone steady. When Lou first saw Ty, she'd been standing on the porch with her coffee cup still in her hands. Her mind raced faster than her heart, filling with questions, fears, memories. She had mourned Ty's loss deeply for Amy, for Lindy, for all of them. She had learned to live with that pain, to carry it like a stone in her pocket. And now, seeing him alive and tangible, it unsettled something deep inside her. She wanted to be overjoyed, but the years of grief and confusion clawed at her. Slowly, she walked down the steps toward him, each footfall feeling heavier than the last. Ty looked up at her, a ghost of the brother she once knew. And suddenly, all of Lou's anger, sadness, and fear melted into something simpler: hope. Hope that this second chance was real. Hope that Amy would eventually get better. She approached Ty with trembling hands and, after a long, searching look, pulled him into a tight hug. She gave more than just forgiveness. It was a bridge back to family, back to belonging. "Welcome home, Ty," Lou whispered against his shoulder. "We will never forget how much we missed you." And in that moment, she knew she was ready to believe in miracles again. Georgie was now older, more mature, and more cautious. The girl who once needed Ty to guide her through her rebellious years had grown into a young woman with dreams, ambitions, and her own share of scars. When she heard the commotion and saw Ty standing there, a portion of her returned to the adolescent who had regarded him as the only adult who truly understood her. However, she did not rush to him. She stood back, her heart pounding, studying him carefully. Georgie needed to be sure this was real. And when Ty met her eyes, those clear, steady eyes that had once taught her how to trust something inside her broke open. She first approached him slowly, then more quickly, and then she laughed and wept as she wrapped her arms around him. "You have no idea how much I needed this," she choked out. Ty smiled against her hair. Georgie had always been tough, but life had made her even tougher. Now, she let herself be vulnerable for the first time in a long while, letting Tay's return remind her that some bonds could survive anything. Tim leaned against the barn door, arms crossed, his face a careful mask of indifference. But inside, he was a storm. Ty's absence had left a hole in Heartland, and Tim had buried his grief beneath layers of stubbornness and distraction. Seeing Tay now, alive and standing only yards away, cracked through that armor faster than any blow he'd ever taken in the rodeo ring. Tim scowled, half out of habit, half to hide the fact that tears threatened to spill. He didn't know how to express the avalanche of emotions, relief, guilt, love, anger, all crashing through him at once. When Ty finally caught his eye, there was a long, heavy silence between them. Finally, Tim shoved off the barn door and walked over, clapping Ty hard on the back. "Took you long enough," he grunted, his voice thick. Ty chuckled, recognizing the affection behind the gruff words. No apologies were necessary in their world. Loyalty and family were spoken through action, not endless explanations. And in that rough embrace, Tim gave Ty all the love he had been saving up during every silent, empty year. Later that night, after the noise had died down and the stars blanketed the Heartland sky, Ty and Amy found themselves alone in the barn, the place where their love story had truly begun. Amy leaned against the wooden stall, her arms folded, a mixture of awe and uncertainty written all over her face. Ty stood in front of her, hands trembling slightly, unsure of where to begin. Finally, it was Amy who broke the silence, her voice small but strong. "Why not Ty? Why were you absent for so long?" Her eyes glistened, but she held her ground. Ty swallowed hard, stepping closer. I thought staying away would protect you. I didn't want you to wait for someone who might never come back. I was trying to be noble, but all I did was hurt the people I love most." Amy's tears fell freely now, tracing silver lines down her cheeks. Ty extended his hand and gently cradled her face in his calloused hands. "I'm so sorry, Amy. I never stopped loving you, not for 1 second." Amy leaned into his touch, her own hands reaching up to cover his. "I never stopped either," she whispered. They stood like that for a long moment, hearts speaking where words failed. Then Ty pressed his forehead to hers. "If you'll have me, I want to build a new life here. With you. With Lindy. I want us to be a family again." Amy nodded through her tears, a broken sob escaping her lips. "Ty, I also want that. More than anything." They kissed not with the wild passion of youth, but with the deep, aching tenderness of two souls who had fought every battle and still found their way back to each other. The promise of healing, forgiveness, and a brighter future than they had ever dared to imagine was contained in that kiss. And that brings us to the end of this emotional journey through Ty Borden's grand return in Heartland Season 19, Episode 1. What an incredible, heartwarming moment for Amy, Lindy, and the entire Heartland family. Ty's return reminds us that even after the deepest heartbreaks, love and family can find their way back home. I hope you found it enjoyable to go deep into these dramatic scenes with me. If you loved this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Nextdoor for even more Heartland content, emotional breakdowns, and exciting updates. I would love to hear what you think about Ty's return. What are you most excited to see next? Drop your feelings in the comments below. Make sure you never miss a new video by pressing the notification bell. There is so much more Heartland magic that we can explore together if you stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe, stay kind, and keep flying with Nextdoor. We'll see you next time.